boys and girls, welcome back. I'm Mr. Albrecht, and this is going to be Skills Unit 3, Lesson 4. So the things you're going to need today are basically your individual code chart just to have handy as we review some of those sounds that we've been using and learning about, okay? Let's start by looking at our learning targets. I can identify tricky spellings that can stand for more than one sound. Let me read that again carefully. I can identify tricky spellings that can stand for more than one sound. So we're going to have to pay attention to that very carefully on this one. I can read two-syllable words that have a tricky A spelling. And that was the one that we're going to take a look at, multiple syllable words and where the A appears and how we read those. All right, so let's look at some review of our sounds. So if you want to grab the individual code chart now would be the time, and you can flip through it and try to find these with me. We're going to first talk about the sounds of the C, okay? These are words that have a C in them, but it sounds like an S. So that's one of those tricky letters that can sound different ways. Take a look at this. We have that CE combination that we remember practicing back in Unit 2. And we have, again, that S sound, as in prince, face, and ice. Notice again, where do we see that CE? Most of the time, we're going to see it towards the end of words. It's going to finish up our word with an S sound. All right, then we end up with this tricky G sometimes, and we call this one, in my room, a soft G. This makes the J sound, okay? So we go from J, but we also know the G makes a G sound, as in I call a hard G. Gingerbread happens to be a word that has both soft G's, which gives us a J sound at both spots it appears, gingerbread. How about the GE? Notice we went from C to CE, from G to GE, so we got to be careful with these because now we have fringe and orange. We have this J sound, but again, notice where is it appearing? At the end of my words. So when I hear the J sound in a word and it's at the end of my word, I've got to make sure I put that E to join that G to make that J sound. All right, so we've looked at these different tricky spellings. Remember, these letters can make different sounds. Let's look at a way that a tricky A. We're going to look at a tricky A now. So both of these words you see on the screen up here, they're divided into syllables, okay? It is this word. I'm not going to say it just yet, okay, because that's going to come later. But it's this word. You may already be knowing it and saying it out loud at home. But both of these ways, when you have a word like this, these are ways that you can chunk or divide those words into syllables. Now, I'm going to read you a sentence, and in that sentence, I want you to listen carefully because you're going to have to decide how is that word going to sound when you read that word in that sentence, okay? So the sentence is, my family and I are going camping in the woods this weekend, and we are going to stay in a blank. Now, think about the way these words are divided up here into our syllables. We could say this one, remember we talked about an open syllable, so we would say K-bin, or on this side, we can close off that syllable by putting the B with the CA, and now we have cab-in. So now go back to your sentence and think, my family and I are going camping in the woods this weekend, and we are going to stay in a cabin. Exactly. So think about two. Does cabin make sense with camping in the woods, right? So when we look at words and we're thinking about how do we divide this, where does this tricky A go? Because A could be long A or the A could be short A, depending on how that word is divided into syllables, okay? So there's our example with cabin filled in, and now I'm going to read aloud some more sentences, and I want you to think about or choose the best possible way for this syllable or correct syllable to be placed, okay? So I'm going to show you a slide, and I'm going to read the sentence, okay? So here's the first slide. I've got choices of 1 and choice 2. Here's your sentence. The box needs to have a label or label. Which one do you think it's going to be? Good. I heard you say number 1, label. So make sure you're not just saying number 1, but you're saying label. You're thinking about that long A, open syllable by itself and now we have the second syllable being closed off, okay? So that's good. Let's go do another one. All right, here's your choices. He was on a big camel or camel in the desert. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody riding a camel, but I have heard of somebody riding a camel. So here, the tricky A gets closed off by that consonant C and consonant M. All right, let's look at another one. Here's your choices. Listen carefully as I read the sentence, and you decide which one of these is going to go in the sentence. I liked the magic show, or I liked the magic show. All right, so I like the magic show, number 2, okay? So I want you to stop and look at this one carefully because this has that G in it that we looked at just a few minutes ago. We have J, and we makes the J sound, right? Magic, magic, okay? We don't go magic, we say magic. The other thing to look at is the C on the end. It doesn't have an E after it. So we're gonna make a K sound, a K almost, right? K, that hard C that we like because there's nothing following it. All right, let's try another one. She had a salad for lunch, or she had a salad for lunch. And I bet you guys are recognizing this is salad, right? So we're going to pick up on this A being closed off between that consonant S and L, and we're not gonna have an open one. So that's the things you're starting to pick up on this because you know these words. You know what fills in, so now look at how they're spelled, right? And when you see this, they're spelled the same, but how they're divided, I should say, because when we divide it here, we get a long A. When we divide it after the consonant and put it with that A in the beginning, we're going to get a short vowel sound, salad. All right, here's another one. The ship is on the radar map, or the ship is on the radar map. See, you know that, I heard you yell, radar, right? Because you know when you think about this radar, you always say radar. So your open syllables at the beginning. All right, good job. You guys got these. Let's look at this next one. I bet you know this one too. She loves to eat pancakes and bacon, or pancakes and bacon. I've never heard anybody eating bacon, right? We have that open syllable with a long A, and now we down here in bacon, we hear that short A, so we're not gonna use that one. All right, let's try another one. I think this is one of our last ones here, so you ready? The roses were so fragrant, or the roses were so fragrant. Listen to that one again. Fragrant or fragrant. So fragrant or fragrant. Fragrance, fragrant, right? So we're gonna definitely use fragrant because that's the smell that comes off of our roses, is their fragrance. And so we can say that they are fragrant, okay? So again, open syllable A, dividing up in those syllables to make sure we have that open syllable. You can kind of see they're creating a tug of war. That A, I should say, is creating that tug of war with each of the A sounds, pulling on it. We're either gonna hear that, as in our example, radar, we're gonna hear that A, or if we divided it differently, we could hear an ah sound, okay? So we gotta think in our minds, when we read a word, where's that A gonna be? Is it going to be short and give us the ah sound, or is it going to be long and giving us a long A sound? Remember, this is our independent strong A, and it's going to allow itself to be said by itself without any support of any other vowel, okay? So we gotta keep that in mind. All right, so don't forget, just as a friendly reminder, that you should be studying that spelling list that we heard about a couple of days ago, okay? All right, learning targets, did you do it? Can you identify tricky spellings that stand for more than one sound? Remember that G and the C, the GE and the CE? And that second learning target was to be able to read those two-syllable words with that tricky A spelling. So we're gonna either hear that long A because it's an open syllable, or we're gonna hear the short A because it's being closed off. We have to decide as we read and as we spell our own words. So this has been Unit 3, Lesson 4. I'm Mr. Albrecht, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.